better at every time. We are learning from every experience and learning from every encounter and every venture in this process of our liberation war. So, with your motivation and natural commitment to the cause, to the Amazonian liberation, you said drove you through the process. I want you to tell us what stood out throughout this conference. What particular aspect of the conference stood out to you?
Safety. Everything was around safety. That was the controlling element to me. Without safety, there was no way we could sit down and work faithfully and concentrate on the issues, concentrate on the constitution. So safety was my number one issue. Just imagine we went to a hall that was open to the public, and by the time we started working, then we see a bunch of people coming to either to intimidate us or to harass us. I mean, it would have been catastrophic. There's a lot of thought put into this process. People had to sit down, people had to think, people had to make recommendations. And you don't do that in an environment where it's hostile. So to me, what came to mind the moment I was given this assignment was safety. Assess the risk factors, look at the safety issues. And if you can address the safety issues, then as I talked in the past, you have operational excellence will come in because you are safe, you can operate, and then you have your customer focus. You can now address the issues of the customer. That happens to be the Amazonian people. So the first thing that came to mind was safety, and you can only determine safety when you do a risk assessment. So I did a risk assessment. From there, I went to the safety aspects, and then the others simply fell into place. So that was pretty straightforward, at least on the drawing board, as far as I was concerned. Over to you, Casey.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And yes, and that's why all the threats and everything we receive.
Uh, I'm on air, Mr. Preston. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Let's carry on.
Apologies, viewers, for that. That's why, security wise, everything went on well. There was no
Right.
hiccups, there was no interruption. I mean, amazingly, for the IT team to have managed the security on Zoom, kudos to them for that aspect. And on all the presenters, or I would say the committee heads, and to all of them, do you have any particular message? I know you have said you recommend a lot of people in your opening remarks. And to all the committee heads, do you have any particular message for them?
Yes, before I say that, I think I really have to also talk about the safety on from the IT team. That I mean, it was just remarkable. And there's another piece of the puzzle that people did not know. I was in constant contact with the Red Feathers. That's the Amazonian Secret Service, um, because they understood, or they came into contact with a lot of information that was going around, that was really valid, and things that we really had to think about. So even the location of the hotel, if somebody didn't give you a certain pieces of information, you wouldn't even find that hotel. And so when those people wrote that address, even if you came to that location, you may not find it. That's another thing. Maybe I'm saying it now because it's gone.
Over.
There were so many redundancies that we put into the location, thanks to the red feathers. And if you actually found a hotel, you definitely make a mistake. We'll know that you're a coup plotter, because there are certain code words that you had to use, and if you didn't have access to that code word, you'll be caught. And the hotel security knew about this, and there was a police station across that knew about. So we were well prepared. So it was, to me, laughable that people felt that even by getting the
Okay.
address you can go there.
Yeah,
So
there is.
coming back, co-
Yeah, there is
coming
so
back.
much to. Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt there. There is so much to delve into this whole thing, because um I would really hope that the technicians put my number on the screen so that our viewers can call in and ask their questions. So I just want us to, as we ride on while we wait for that to be done, I just want to say that there is so much that was done and was said in this conference, and there were so many resolutions and reforms and amendments that came out from this conference, from the deliberations from the first day, the second day, and the third day. I mean, it was a drilling for me, participating in that whole process. And there was no impression. I didn't get any impression from that whole process like anybody was a hand clapper or whatever they choose to call it, because Amazonians are not. They were not having it. They were not. They were not taking anything lightly.
No,
So
no.
on the resolutions or on the deliberations, on the restructuring of now what we now known as the interim House of Representatives. During that deliberations or in that reforms, what would you have to tell Ambazonian regarding the interim House of Representatives?
Okay. I really have to answer the second part of your last question before I go forward. So just to, you were asking
Okay.
me about the different committees and the different, which
Oh
one
yes.
was most,
Oh yes.
okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Um, the work was grueling, really grueling, because the first day we thought we're going to meet, just the opening session will be from 3 to 5, just say an opening of 2 hours. That is 9 p.m. To 11 or 12 p.m. Amber time. You can't imagine how long it took us. It took us more than 6 hours, twice as long. Okay. And on the following day, we're supposed to meet from 9 to 5. We're there from 9 to 11 p.m. We took an extra 4 5 hours. In fact, it came to a point where the ladies who cleaned the room, I'm sorry. On the second day, we were working from home, but we worked all the way past midnight. It went all the way to the early hours of the morning. We added an extra 5 hours just working. And on the following day, where we had to go back to the hotel, we worked all the way to 11 p.m. And the ladies who cleaned the room had to wait outside, and they said, "Please, you have to get out because we have to clean this room in preparation for the next day." Why did that happen? It happened because everybody wanted to make sure that all the concerns raised by delegates were addressed. Every time that we presented recommendations, oh my goodness, you saw about 20 hands up. And we didn't just hush them down that, oh, no, 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 no. No. We took each at a time. We make sure that they were exhausted all the way to the nitty gritty. And that's why we weren't able to finish until the 14th, which was a Sunday. We were supposed to
Mm-hmm.
close on Saturday and then leave on Sunday. No, I caught the plane. When I arrived, while in the taxi, it started. I mean, the resolutions. I was talking while in the taxi. When I went home, I just rushed upstairs, threw my bag, and came on the air for us to start. That just tells you how intensive. Some people were working in the cars, in the taxis while driving home. Those who could even have access while on the plane, they did. And my goodness, it was unbelievable because we worked and worked and worked to make sure that we got the resolutions that we presented to you on Sunday. So it wasn't a hand clappers occasion. And I also noticed that, which is actually very positive in a way, I saw some, I don't know, distractors on the social media say, oh, Dr. Sako looks tired. He looks dejected. Yeah, Dr. Sako is very tired. He is. Even the voice, he's been talking for the past month, going to meetings, working all the way to the wee hours of the morning. He is tired. You should have seen it because there is nothing that goes by without going through his desk. All these recommendations he had to read through. Everything, whether it's the APP, is the Restoration Council, or it is the constitutional framework. He has to read through and make sure that he understands everything. Why wouldn't you be tired? You think we are going to some sort of a picnic? This struggle is not a picnic. Maybe Cristiano thinks it's a picnic. He goes on ABS on for a picnic. We are not here for a picnic. It is serious. People get tired. I mean, the following day I couldn't even work. I slept the entire day. I couldn't go to work because it is tiring. It is just factual.
Yeah.
For those who've never been involved in this sort of work, I bet you that the day you get it, for those who'll be lucky, you realize that it's very time consuming and it takes a toll on you. Yes, we get tired. That's for sure. We are not
Yeah.
hiding it.
Okay.
Yes.
And the various committee heads.
Yes. We had the good fortune of having people who are, I mean, they're so talented. We are talking about university professors. Professor Bote from the University of Lesotho, who was the chairperson of the APP. You have Dr. Winnie Lobati, who headed Restoration Council. You have Barrister Valentine Ghana, head of the Constitutional Reform Committee. Okay, and then you have Mr. Steve Nebafru, who was in charge of Resolution Committee. These are extremely talented people who were able to sit down and digest, crystallize all the information in each of these sections and be able to bring it to the Amazonian people in a way that they understand what the stakes are. The stakes are very high, and we have to live up to expectation. I mean, the great reform that has been brought to bear ultimately to create the interim House of Representatives. It's a very, very powerful document whereby every LGA or every county will have a representative in this great body. And this will be
Oh,
the voice of the people moving on. And that is very, very important. That is the ultimate outcome of this conference in Washington, D.C.
okay.
Okay. So
Um,
we move away from the Restoration Council. We now have our House of Representatives, which is in line with the what Joa had. Joa led the House of Representatives uh, in the uh, in our Southern Cameroon's Southern Cameroon's Parliament. Yes.
okay. Um, while we wait on our viewers to call in and ask their questions, especially regarding this just ended ASSC2 Washington, and the resolutions and the president's address opening that conference is available on ABC platforms and so many social media platforms. But if you haven't received it to read it and know the current states and stakes of the interim government, because these are resolutions, these are reforms and amendments to govern the affairs of the interim government. It's not of the of those who are to post themselves as opposition. No, it is for those who believe in the structure, the governing structure of the interim government headed by President Samuel Sako Ikome. So we already have a first caller on the line, and caller, just one moment, I'll just finish what I'm saying. So make sure you get informed. Don't be doing a yes say, because we are past the level of somebody said you want talk say that one a yes say. No, this is time to be informed, to be put yourself in the know, so that you will make the right choices and take the accurate and correct action. um Good evening, caller. You're calling from Ground Zero. What is your question or contribution?
Yes, good evening. I'm actually calling from the home front.
Oh, fantastic.
That
Yeah,
is
so
good.
I am very, very happy, especially with the just ended ASSC2 conference in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Here on Ground Zero, we really followed that program. I myself, I was very active, and everything went very successful, and the resolutions were very, very good, very, very good, and much appreciated here on Ground Zero. And we want to say that we applaud the works, we applaud all the initiative and all those that actually put all the positive energy to see that we arrive at those resolutions that will shape as the state of our struggle going forward. Yes, and I want to also thank the communication, the Minister of Communication, Secretary of Communication, Dr. Mungwa, for the excellent job, selfless, that he actually put the input to see that the ASSC2 was a success. Now, my question goes thus.
Mm-hmm.
I wish to find out to ask the Secretary of Communication, um, because at the moment we are seeing that the action things are just somehow with a distraction from the coup plotters and the rest. And it is clear that our IG, led by President Sako, is the one doing all the hard job, the one carrying out action here on ground zero. Because since the IG has been distracted, we have not been seeing action, be it from ATF, be it from even the coup plotters, and so on and so forth. So I want to ask what the IG is doing to make the ground zero hot again. I mean, after surviving the coup plot.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you for such a great question. And yes, any normal Amazonian that should be their focus. I will over to you, SOS. Thank you for your question.
Okay,
Okay,
thank
thank you.
you, the gentleman from the home front. I'm very pleased to know that he actually followed up because he's been using the new buzzwords that we have created after ASSC2. Yes, it is very important that we now focus on the home front. One of the distractions that probably brought a slowdown was obviously what the coup plotters did, and for us to restructure ourselves and see exactly where we are going. That's where the ASSC conference came in. It was very important that we have this conference so that we know exactly the directions we are taking. Now that that is over, we are going to focus 100% on ground zero. Okay, but there's a caveat here. I'm not the Secretary of State for Defense, so I cannot give you a blow by blow structure of what we intend to do.
Strategy.
But we know that now that we're done with the ASSC 2, that is over, and the people at the home front, they know exactly what we have done, and they recognize and appreciate the fact that we have drawn a new roadmap for the for our struggle. Now we are going to concentrate on the home front, and you understand that we launched the um, Lava 3 project not too long ago. And we
Yeah.
continued even during the conference itself. We're able to bring in more than $30,000. I hear somebody said 5,000. I don't know where these people get their information. It's rather ridiculous. Okay. We were able to haul in more than $30,000. So this process is continuing. And now it's up to the Department of Self Defense to start putting together the strategies that they've always just the way they've done in the past. So, for me, what is important to me is that we have completed this conference. We have put into place a new structure that will govern us, and now we have to go ahead in the struggle. So, rest assured, countrymen, we are going to make the ground hot again. That's for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, SOS. I just want to reiterate some things you said because our people at the home front They are my greatest inspiration. They are always in high spirit. They are always motivated. And sometimes you even hear, "Oh, if diaspora is no focus, we can do this thing." But we don't want the enemy agenda to thrive amongst us. That's not necessarily a great idea. But there's something you said, SOS said, now we are ready to focus 100%. And that's exactly one of the things the president said in his closing remark at the ASSC2, Washington, D.C., that everything is going to be 100% on on a whole front. So we have to stay on course. Because another thing I want to tell ourselves, especially those on home front, now we have just left this conference. The enemy alert is very high at the moment. So they know that we are at the point of proving to our people that the launching of Lava Storm just over 3 weeks ago, and this just ended ASSC conference, has positioned us in a place to do things that will take us forward. So the alert is high, and we understand our resources and the life that we are of our ARFs. We don't want to put them in any position of harm. So we should not expect any, I cannot say immediate action, because the interim government is now working hard to ensure that they work discreetly. They work so that the enemy does not see when they are coming or where they are going. They just feel the impact of the actions. And that's where we should be. We should not be giving out intelligence to the enemy free, like all the large mouths and big mouths and reckless Amazonians have been doing for the past 5 years, where before anything is done, before you know it, the whole news is on social media, and the enemy would ambush and kill a lot of our ARFs. No, now we are wiser. Now we are smarter. And now we are not doing anything in a haste. And we are not coming back to tell you stories, because we are positioning, the interim government is strategizing and positioning itself. If you've been listening to the president's addresses in the past 1 month, he's he spoke a lot about what the interim government is going to be doing. One of it is that they're positioning itself to be able to be efficient. That he said one in his closing remark as well, that we've learned from the mistakes. We are not going to say, "Oh, we there was a hit and miss." No. So interim government is working based on this plan and strategy of the president, Samuel Sako Ikome, to see that the execution is efficient and is on target. So let's be patient. Let's not do anything or in a rush at the moment. And everyone have seen that the hand that is piloting us to the right direction to our liberation is this interim government headed by President Sako. And anybody can do whatever they choose to do, but they should point their weapons, they should point their attacks to La Republique, not the interim government, because all the interim government is working hard day and night, and all those within that structure is to ensure that our journey is made short to Boya. Okay, keep making your calls, keep making your calls. SOS, while we wait for our people to call in and ask their question or make their contribution, um, I wanted to ask, based on this conference, which you were highly involved and you did everything that you did, and we are at this position now. So, how do you see the interim government ensuring that the reforms, the activities on the home front, the um, interim House of Assembly, the new resolutions of the APP, how is the interim government planning to see that this is in place and functioning to serve the best interest of Amazonia?
Great question, Casey. In every situations where you put together a set of documents that will administer a group of people, implementation can be a very, very tasking process. And I'm very happy that even before I came on air to talk about the recommendations to all delegates, people had already started having meetings with their LGAs. And that's exactly what needs to happen. All the delegates have to go back to their counties and to the LGAs and talk about this. We need to educate the public. We need to educate each other. We need to interact. They have to ask questions. They have to ask the hard questions. It is very important that it doesn't really matter if you don't understand, you don't have the answers. Ask those questions because we have specialists, those who are the chair persons. They, but this element we don't understand. Can you please clarify? It is very important that we understand what these resolutions are. And you can only understand when you take part, when you ask questions. You have to have some sort of communication between the delegates and the chairpersons. Okay, you need to have that communication. That's the only way that we'll have it. And I'm so happy that Comrade Commando came on air. UN came on air. UN, I really enjoyed his explanation in Pidgin. I learned so much from him. And I think this is the sort of medium that we really have to encourage so that the ordinary person, who may not be able to read this very hefty document, can listen to somebody like UN, explain it in Pidgin English, explain it very subtly. What are the
Yes, 1
major
minute.
issues? What are the major challenges? And I think they're already doing it. And please, we have to multiply, these sessions on ABC television so that people get to know exactly what is going on. If we can have audio versions where those who don't have access to TV can have an audio version so that they can listen to them, that is going to be very
Yeah,
encouraging.
yeah. Excuse me, doctor. Sorry to interrupt. We have another caller on the line, and are you calling from the Savannah, Atlantic, or the Midlands? Or which county are you calling from?
I'm calling from the Savannah land.
Okay. What is your contribution or question?
Good. I want to thank you very much, and this is a great appreciation. Yes, I want to appreciate all those delegates and especially Dr. Mungwa that is talking with you, lady.
Mm-hmm.
We really appreciate the conference and all those who contributed and took part in that conference. So I thank you very much. This is a heavyweight interim government now, not as that one of before where we had those lousy people who have just little or nothing to contribute. And my question goes this. With all these people who have been making all this noise, giving accusations on our president and impersonating and telling lies, what are you people doing for them to stop all this rubbish? So that is just a question. Thank you very
Okay.
much, and I thank Dr. Mungwa and all who participated, everybody. And I want to give another appreciation to Dr. Tita, who came out and revealed everything that the co-plotters were trying to do. And another question I want to ask, what about this woman, they call her Marianta Njomia? How heavy is she to be a president of that their own super group? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
We have we have another question. Let's just take this one, then you can answer both. Greetings, comrade, and where are you calling from? Which county? And what's your question, and or contribution?
Bernard, I'm calling from Maryland. My county is
Okay.
Momo County, Ogamo LGA. I
Okay.
just called to appreciate, to thank our Secretary of Communication for the marvelous job he did. Imagine the time he had been in that office and what he put up on our ASSC2, it was wonderful. That day I wept. I was one of the delegates from Momo. I wish the whole world could come and see democracy at its peak. That is what happened in the days of former British Cameroon. Because I was in the constitutional committee the debate went to a moment where I thought that that was going to break up because there was a point when most people had to vote between 3 years and 5 years. It was so hot that people shouted fraud, 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 fraud. I thought that that was going to be the end. Surprisingly, immediately after that, when we went to the next resolution, I still see those who were crying for voting. I said, "Oh, me that understood the role of majority." Elsewhere, like our neighbors, at the end, we have just worked out. I saw that people
Right.
came, they serious. We took this as a challenge.
Mm.
IG had never performed as and I think I want to thank our coup brother because they gave us an opportunity to take it as a challenge and redouble our effort.
Mm.
Even look at the fundraising at the end. I
Mm.
didn't even expect half of that amount with the tiredness. I could see the president tired. I could see all the our SOS Mungwa tired. I could see the but tired. I could see Frank tired. The fact was wonderful, and our ladies were also there. So, and not to talk of the ABC, the performance was excellent. And every moment, since communication is something which is my domain, I was thinking it was going to break out. I was thinking of people trying to interference, hacking, but thank God everything went well. Not to talk of the
Right.
security. I was even shocked that
Right.
it is somebody, the two brothers from my LGA, who got the number of that hotel I was putting all over. It is sad. But anyway, those are people who are not even there with us, but thank God it went so well. One more time, I want to tell our central communication, more grace you are able. I'm so happy with the performance, and I think from as I tell people when I give the feedback to the people back home that IG will never be the same as from that day. It will never be the same. Like somebody who called earlier was asking, what is the way forward? I just asked him to keep his fingers crossed. Give us 1 month, give the IG 1 month, give the president 1 month, and you see that things will change. That was just my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very
Really,
much.
I appreciate your effort. Buddy, every person it was wonderful. That's a success. I think for 60 years, some of us who are winners, this is one of the best successes Southern Cameroonians have registered, and it's a proof that Goya is around the corners. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Yes, that's
Okay.
what I just said earlier. Yes, while you respond to our first caller, this was just a contribution. So
Right.
you can respond to the question.
Right. I think I will start with the second caller. Thank you very much. I'm so taken by the comments that he made. Listen, this was a team effort. I did not do it alone. I always succeeded because others were there with me. So I don't think this is something. No, it shouldn't come to me alone. It's team effort. We sat down, we designed this thing, and it went well. So everybody should to share must share this kudos that he's throwing at us. So I appreciate that. I will answer the second question about Marianta. I mean, I have no contact with her. She'll be judged by the Ambazonian people. I don't have anything personal against Marianta as a human being. No, I know that she's leading a cause that is going to go nowhere, but it is up to you, the Ambazonian people, to reject her. I know I cannot force her out. I can't do anything. That's another spirit of democracy that we have to develop. So I just leave it the way it is. As to the coup plotters, now, I look at it from two different levels. We here live in a country, obviously a country of laws. So there are lots of things that actually help us in terms of how to protect our intellectual property that such that they cannot interfere with. For example, our treasury, our CID, no matter what they do, they cannot have access to it because it's our intellectual property. So anything that the coup plotters have done that is criminal in nature, uh, we will have to address them accordingly by seeking the law, justice. In terms of making them disappear, we cannot. Again, we're in a free country, people do what they want. But I think what is important is what you do, the Amazonian people.
Mm.
You simply have to reject them. Now that you have seen the roadmap that we have placed in front of you to guide us to independence. You now know the facts, all the lies and innuendos and everything that is said in the past, whether it's Chris Anno, whether it's whoever that may be. I think that the campaign of lies is led by Cristiano. And he knows it. Even when you look at him, he knows that he's lying and he doesn't really care. You just have to turn away from him. Let him be alone. If you believe in him, well, I cannot come there to talk any more than what I've said here. Look at us in terms of action. What are we doing? Don't look at us in terms of, oh, the person who is at the head is a Bakuri man. Oh, the Secretary of Communication is from Gogitunja. That is irrelevant. No matter what we do, we'll all come from different parts of the country. The Ambazonia struggle does not belong to one individual. We are putting people together to work for the good of everybody, whether you come from the Atlantic, you come from the Midlands, or from the Savannah. We are all working together, which means tomorrow, when Dr. Sako is no longer there, the next person may be a guy from Manu or a lady from Manu, or it may be somebody from Gokituja somewhere. It doesn't matter. But what is important? You should carry that flag of freedom and independence. That's what we are fighting for. I'm fighting for the constitution of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. That's what I'm fighting for. And the head of that battle at this moment is Dr. Samuel Ikomisako. And I believe in him, and every member of the cabinet believes in him. And we are serious about what we are saying. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, SOS. I mean, just you just say something that I am really touched by. It's about carrying that flag. It doesn't matter what, and its results. And yes, Amazonians, there is no other way this can be said. I always tell you, when every time I get the opportunity, that Amazonia, we should focus on the outcome. Who is acting in your best interest, in the best interest of Amazonia liberation? That you can know, if you can collect your thoughts, you know what the struggle is about, you know why we are fighting, you understand the complexes are surrounding this freedom war, because it is a complex war. You know, there are at times people throw out suggestions, but implementation, which is why I had to ask the SOS about implementing. How is this going to apply on ground? How is this going to function with the people? And yes, those who were there to deliberate, they all came together and agreed to to carry forward this responsibility, to see that our structures and institutions function better to serve our people. And that is why we are here. So fellow Ambazonians, keep calling and make sure you share and ask your questions. So let's continue to share. So like I was saying, so the SOS has mentioned something. I would like to add to what he said, that we cannot decide the choices of any individual within the freedom um, bracket, or with those who claim to be fighting for Ambazonia. We have seen over time people's action and reaction when the heat is hot. We have seen over time when things doesn't favor certain people, their attitudes and actions. And this is why you should decide in yourself and in your personal conviction in this liberation struggle, that there is nothing or nobody that is capable of distracting you from the prize. And when you decide, you will be able to know who is working in line with your desires and wishes for a liberated Amazonia. And you'll be able to contribute where necessary. You
I mean,
know,
one
it's
of
not
the
about. Mhm. You can
yeah,
carry
let me
on.
add one of the reasons why I was very anxious about the Washington conference, which many people do not know, is that for all these years I've been working with President Sako, we have never met in person. Can you imagine somebody whom I was able to assess, believe in, just from what he said to me? I believed in him. So I rushed down to Washington, D.C. so that I can physically meet with the president for the first time. We had never met before. And I discovered that this man, he was even better when I met him in person. What sort of human being he is. Because I was sitting next to him for the 2 days that we met in the conference. I was able to sit next to Dr. Sako. We were able to communicate, make jokes. He cracked jokes. I cracked jokes. And, we're using the same computer to access the system. And this is such a very down to earth person. Down to earth. You'll never believe. He's just like you and I.
Y-
And people
Yes,
have to know
SOS.
this. Okay.
Sorry to interrupt you. We'll be rounding up because there is, I think, the church and politics coming up just after us. It should be starting now. We'll just overrun our time. And we want to thank those who were able to contribute. But in closing of your outing this week, and we know you come every Tuesday, but okay, we have another caller. We'll just take this one last caller before we round up. Okay. Yeah, good evening. What's your hello? Ca- Hello. Okay, the caller has dropped. Um, so well, we are rounding up now. We are rounding up now. And SOS, what is your closing remark for Amazonian? And we know you'll be back again next week with some updates on what the interim government is doing going forward, and in especially in implementing the resolutions from the ASSC too.
This is a time to rejoice. I'm telling you, it's like a heavy burden taken off our shoulder. This ASSC2 meeting was one of the it's been one of the highlights since the struggle started, because now we are on the home front. We are on the home lap. We are getting home. We are going home, and this meeting was so crucial for us to calibrate, giving all the turbulence. If you listen to my opening speech, we have been in a state of turbulence for some time. And remember, whenever you are in a plane and there's turbulence, there's one thing that comes to mind. Are we sure that we have the right pilot? Are you sure it's somebody who is going to talk to us and say, this is turbulence, don't be afraid, you'll be fine? And that's exactly what Dr. Sako has done. He's been a pilot in this plane, which has undergone turbulence for the past 3 months. And now we have restabilized the plane and we're about to land. So I want every ambassador and everyone on the home front to understand that it was a very difficult ride, but we are very lucky that we had the best pilot there is. And we are on the home front now. We are going home.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry so as to interrupt. I'll take this caller. They've tried to call a few times. Um, good evening or good afternoon, and what's your question or contribution so that we can close? We were just rounding up for today.
Okay, good evening, man. My question is that what is like so difficult for us to unite? Because if you ask ourselves, if like the UN asks that, okay, Abazonia, who is your leader? Who is leading you in this state? Let the person come forward. Is it Ayabacho or is it Marietta or who?
Okay.
Yeah. Uh,
You get it?
Yes, we are getting you.
Yeah. What truly now I will say my truth because now I'm just like confused in this revolution because
okay. Let him.
who is the one that is like can stand to represent the Amazonian?
Don't worry, let me finish.
Because we are everybody is coming with his own. This one we talk his own. That means you are making people to confuse. The more you guys are talking, people are dying in ground zero. You guys should try to unite yourself and talk with one voice. Thank you so much.
Thank you. SOS,
Okay.
before you chip in into that and round up your closing remarks, I would just like to say little things to our caller. Amazonians know exactly what they want. And when people, for me, when people use unity as an excuse for their lack of conviction for the Ambazonia liberation, because that's what people have been using. And they will also use the people uniting as an excuse for not doing what they are supposed to be doing, or taking out their responsibility to see that we move forward in this revolution. So there's no absolute unity anywhere on earth, including your family. And when it comes to Ambazonia leadership, Ambazonia leadership does not need, and it's not confused. The only people who are confused are those who chose to, because the Swiss mediation will not choose the interim government headed by President Samuel Sako if they thought that Ambazonia does not have leadership, or the leadership situation is not, there's no leadership with the Ambazonia. And for those who have been listening to those white men or white people using lack of unity as an excuse for their atrocity that they caused in Ambazonia, for setting up this fight that we are even fighting today. When you hear the Americans or the British parliamentarians or the American senators or whoever from these particular two countries who actually have stakes and influence and part of the cause of this liberation war using unity, they are only using that as an excuse, because they know that it would appeal to some of you, your consciences. It will appeal to your ignorance. It will appeal to your lack of awareness of the fact that unity is not an excuse to do the right thing. Unity is not an excuse to fight for justice. A lack of unity is not an excuse to do what we have to do as an Ambazonians for our liberation war. And those who and the other hypocritical and dishonest things that some Ambazonians do all the time is that those who are actually creating the division um are being hailed by most of you complaining about unity. Those who are trying to unite and focus on the liberation trouble, you want to punish. And that is a sad part about the African society, always blaming the victim. Always blaming the victim. So when you want to talk about lack of unity, talk about being confused, check yourself, check your conviction, check what keeps you in this fight, check why we are fighting. And there is nobody out there, and there is no system or situation out there that it have absolute unity. And if we even talk about collaboration, all the platforms that have come together, there was ACT. Why is nobody asking the question that why did ACT, the ARCC, I think was called, why did it not succeed? How long did it last? What results did they bring for Ambazonia? Why are people not asking that? Recently there was Ayabacho Ayoktabe collaboration on Akwanga. Where did that end? What result did that bring for Ambazonia? Let's focus on results. Let's focus what it brings for Ambazonia, and stop, listening to gossips and making excuses for not doing what we are supposed to do for our liberation cause. Thank you, VP.
Yes,
The SOS, you
yes.
can take over
I
from
think
there.
that gentleman who just spoke is a typical example of many people who do not really want to take the effort to know what are we fighting for. It's very unfortunate because um, first of all, he's assuming that Ambazonians are fools. When he say we are confused, that doesn't make sense. If he is confused, then that's the issue. If he's confused, he has to ask questions to be clarified. You cannot say, I'm confused, and then just sit. We are. It's not we. Let him not add other people in that category. He is deliberately he deliberately wants to be confused because he may have a different agenda. If you are driving from Bamenda, somebody tells you that he's going to Boya, another person says he's going to Yaoundé. He said, let us come together and go to one destination. What are you going to say if you are going to Boya? Are you going to say, okay, that's fine, I agree, let us both decide to go to Douala? Going to Douala, is it going to solve your issue? The person going to Yaoundé say, no, I was going to Yaoundé. You going to Boya, you say, I was going to Boya. But you are in Douala because you want unity. That doesn't make sense. And people who keep on talking about unity, these are the same people who even don't want unity, because you are asking for a proposition
Absolutely.
that never works. It's never going to work.
Thank you.
Are you going to Boya or not? If you are not going to Boya, then you don't belong to my team. Don't tell me that we have
Simple.
to be united when certainly others want to take us to Yaoundé. I don't want to go to Yaoundé, so I am not confused. If you are confused, if you want to go to Yaoundé, then this forum is not for you. I want to make it very clear. If you don't want us to go to Boya, we are not fighting for you. And do not come on this platform to start asking those questions. Doesn't make sense. And we really have to be emphatic on this. We are fighting to
Absolutely.
go to Boya. We are not fighting to go back to Yaoundé. If you want to go to Yaoundé, just carry your bags and cross the Mongo and say goodbye, and we'll never have any issues with you. But do not force us to accompany you to Yaoundé. That's exactly what you want us to do. We are not going to do it. It is very clear. And we should
Thank,
stop accepting questions that show a lot of lack of understanding, even lack of effort. Democracy works when people understand. So there is an interaction. You don't just sit and fold your arms and say, let's be united. One question I'm going to ask this gentleman: what proposal do you have for us to be united? I'm waiting for this
mm,
gentleman to come and tell me, okay, I'm thinking about, you are a Southern Cameroonian, you are an Amazonian, you can be in this
yeah.
position, you can be Secretary of State for Communication. So bring your
Oh,
document to tell me how I am going to get united. Then I'm going to implement it. If you think it's that easy,
thank
even
you.
in democratic
Thank you.
countries, you have different parties. It doesn't mean they're not united.
Thank you,
Okay,
SOS.
so this idea of unity is becoming a cliche. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
We are for Boya. If you are for Boya, then there's no reason for us to be divided. So if somebody is trying to divide us, certainly that person is not going to Boya, and that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, SOS. Thank you so much for your time, for always creating the time for to talk to Amazonians and to listen and answer questions. SOS, correct me if I'm wrong, and you will be here again next week, Tuesday, not Wednesday, for your weekly briefing.
That's
And
correct. Tuesdays.
thank you. So, fellow Amazonians, tune in every Tuesday on ABC to get your weekly briefing from the Secretary of State for Communication or the interim government headed by President Samuel Sako Ikome. So, don't go and listen on gossips and come and be asking questions. Ask questions on the interim government policies and procedures, on interim government functions and institutions. Ask questions on how the interim government is working, like one of the caller asked. Now that we are done with ASSC2, what is the way forward for home front? And yes, SOS has responded to that question. So that is what we want. We don't have time nor energy for any further distractions. And I also want to tell fellow viewers of ABC Amber TV that Comrade Tapadi will be live tomorrow to clarify and debunk some of the distractions that is going on within our revolution. So you stay tuned on ABC Amber TV and always send your. I want to appreciate those who send their messages, their recommendations and suggestions on the ABC Facebook page and Messenger. You notice that you were responded to, and if you haven't been responded to, you will certainly get a response to your suggestions and questions. And thank all of you for contacting us. Keep contact. And also for all of you in the diaspora, if you have not registered and to the ABC Amber TV Club, ensure to do so on the website is www.abcambertv.com. Make sure you register to the ABC Club whichever capacity you can. And that website can only get better and better, and it's going to be where you will have your breaking news, you will have date I'll say minute by minute update on activities on ground zero, and we'll create more forums for interaction amongst us who believe in the liberation, I mean, total liberation of Amazonian territories and everything on earth that is Amazonians. So let us stay focused, let us stay inspired, let us stay motivated, let us not be confused, let be grown enough. This the revolution is not for every mind. It takes your personal development, it takes conviction with honesty and integrity to be able to separate the chaffs or the kende from the fufu is as far as the African revolution is concerned, because our society is plagued with a lot of societal ills, and some of it has played out on the stage of this revolution, and we should not be distracted or discouraged by it. We should stay inspired because we have come too far to think of anything else. You know, those other people are already crying of, they said they were tired and they now campaigning for federation. But here, like the SOS said, we the people of the interim government headed by President Samuel Ikomesako stand for total and absolute liberation of Amazonia. So stay tuned on ABC Amber TV. Much more will be coming up from you on the weeks ahead. And don't go away, don't go away. Pastor Commando will be right and coming up with church and politics, and for us to keep enlightening and getting our minds strengthened, because the war is just taking another level of fight. And so we should all be ready and be strong for it. Thank you all for watching. God bless you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Okay, I think the technical team may be trying to take us off air.
Rest in peace, Rudolph Mungwa. Dola ili tempo da kopti tine weri. Yoma, she wanna be fengde. Kilo ufi win.
Kola jeto nosha, we mingo yo banja. Se avanro pampa. Rest in peace to area killer. We mo village conquer. That's why I don't see. No way oh bam bam ta. I can't believe. Say you don't go so soon. Now what I see. I wanna see you again. I wanna see you again.
When si bikwe ka do yenyu ka mami ka ba ka nda ka mu mem kwa ne when chi so nga ko chuba ne kilo afem teni ayo wani nyua. I dey see you all time as you dey fly for sky, as you look down for me and then I catch a smile, then you say